Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
And if, like me and James, you've made it to episode 20 of Correspondent Week, thank you firstly for listening. Congratulations on making it this far. James, we are at episode number 20, and I think you saved one of the best ones till the end as well.
So it's all part of the plan, baby. Don't worry about it. And I should say, and I'm going to point it out from the start, and last time I did that, someone went mental within a couple of hours. We were recording this podcast at 7 p.m. on Thursday, the 5th of August. And we were recording it with our Brentford correspondent, our new Brentford correspondent, our only Brentford correspondent, the only Brentford fan I know, Tom Med. How are you, Tom?
Yeah, good. Not too bad, guys. Thanks for having me again. I see that you left, obviously, me and Liverpool. I saw Local Law was obviously before me a bit earlier. So yep. I assume you left the two title contenders for this year's Prem to last. Well, it makes sense.
We left you to the end so that you were the only one that knew the Messi news. Literally the Lionel Messi news. And now we're going to ask you first and foremost, can you see Lionel Messi rocking up at Brentford in the next week or so?
Well, I know, obviously we got that big payment that's just come in, now we're in the Premier League. So, we've got the money. So it's probably pretty likely. So first game against Arsenal. Yeah.
He might go on a pay-as-you-go deal. Play one game and then move on to another.
To be fair,
so might give him
he loves tearing Arsenal a new one anyway.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you'll get more money at Brentford than he would do at Barcelona anyway. So
let's see. Tom, before we get into Brentford as a new correspondent, and to be fair, you've already had an influence on Planet FPL content with the great pod you did with James when Brentford got promoted. I really enjoyed listening to that. And I have to say the Takeover Week pod as well was fantastic with you and Josh and Cameron. Especially, you're having such an interesting conversation about racism. It was just after England and not just to blow smoke up your ass, but I really felt at the time that I wanted to get involved in the conversation. And that's the best compliment I can make with the three of you. It just felt like, do you know what? These are three guys having a conversation. I want to be sitting there at the table involved in the conversation. That's how natural and good it felt. So introduce yourself and plug the pod as well, please, because it deserves it. And we'll get into Brentford.
No, yeah, thanks very much. That's massive compliment from you guys. So me and a couple of mates, we're mates from uni, just thought last year during lockdown we had absolutely nothing better to do. So after listening to many podcasts, we thought we'd start our own. So we are the FPL by Dummies. It makes more sense to it. It should be FPL for Dummies, but we're pretty stupid ourselves and we have no idea when it comes to FPL. So we thought we'd be FPL by Dummies. So that's why I'm FPL Dummy Tom on Twitter. And you can catch the other guys, FPL Dummy Josh and Cam as well, both of the guys, And we just chat an absolute, gotta be honest, load of shit about fantasy football. Terrible overall history, rankings, all of that. It's absolutely shocking, but we just a bit of a laugh get together. So
I think James and I are evidence that you don't need to be good at fantasy football to have a fantasy football podcast because our records are not massively better. James a little bit better than mine. So Brentford
couldn't be much worse.
That.
How you feeling about it, Tom?
I'm obviously going to be way too optimistic, I think.
You're allowed, mate.
Yeah. It's I'm just happy to be here. Really, it's taken a while for us to get here. Was it first time in? Is it almost 50 years? So, but yeah, I think we look all right. I don't know whether just because I'm sort of obviously the classic biased fan, but for the first time we've not sold any players. We've actually seemed to be buying a few decent players and actually players that I've sort of actually heard of for once, not just complete randomers that get picked out of nowhere and come into our club and takes about a few games for everyone to realise who they actually are and actually they're half decent. So we've got a few good players come in, and so I'm sort of.
It's funny because our Norwich correspondent, when we recorded with Mark, said, we're not going to finish bottom. We'll be 19th, somewhere between 15th and 19th. And when James asked the question directly, well, why? Who's going to finish bottom? He didn't hesitate and say Brentford. So you need to sell it to us and tell us why.
Right stitched Mark up there, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, he said it, not me. But I think you're right. Obviously, we had the friendly against you the weekend just gone, which was 1-0 in the end. But I think you didn't really play your full strength team at all. And we it wasn't the greatest game, to be fair, but you was defensively quite solid and had a structure, and we didn't create the most amount of chances in that game particularly.
Yeah, just apart from our old friend Saeed coming in and scoring an absolute worldie from outside the box. So no, to be honest, it's been an interesting one really, because I think the team as a whole has been quite a good squad. And I think the bit where we've been let down is defensively. As you can see from obviously last year in the Championship, we conceded, I think, the most of the three teams that have gone up and kept the least clean sheets of the three teams gone up. But going forward, we've always been really strong. So I think in the transfer market, they've been looking at going, where can they improve? And they've made two really great signings, I think, defensively so far. And it's looking like there's going to be a third sort of defensive player coming in, potentially a fourth as well. They've really not seemed to be holding back. There seems to be quite a few signings coming in. So I think the one that obviously the main ones coming in is Christophe Ajer from Celtic. Experience he's had. He's won the quadruple now with Celtic. Sorry, he's won the quadruple treble with Celtic now. Come off obviously a bad season last season with Celtic, but he's a good age. I think coming at 24 years old, comes straight into the side. It again just shores up our defence a little bit more. And we've got the centre defence midfielder Frank Onyeka come in from FC Midtjylland, who against West Ham was the first time I've seen him play, really, to be honest, but obviously played Champions League football last year, and I thought looked fantastic against West Ham in the friendly. It comes straight in. I think he's been sort of dubbed as a not so good N'Golo Kante and Wilfred Ndidi, basically. So that sort of player. So again, and that's the player we needed, really, someone sort of to pick up possession in the middle of the park and basically would just become a lot more secure at the back. I think from a goalkeeper's not a bad goalkeeper. It's just in front of him was pretty poor, let's be honest. So
I wonder I should before, in fact, no, let's do this first. Who are the other players you believe are coming in at the moment?
So I think most likely to come in is Johan Visa, who's a left winger. He plays for Lorient at the moment. Apparently he's in London at the moment as we speak, and it's just waiting for the medical to go through. He got acid attacked about 4 weeks ago.
I've seen that, yeah.
So they're just sort of waiting on the medical, really, because there's a potential his problem with his eyesight. It might cause him to fail a medical. There's loads of stupid things going on, but I'm pretty confident that he'll come in. We were linked with him last January, but it didn't go through. And he's a good, to honest, he'll more than likely come in ahead of Serge Canos, who's playing left wing at the moment. And I think obviously that those two will play on the left-hand side. We've got Jan, I can't say his surname, to be honest, Jens Kajus, also from Midtjylland. He's linked with Newcastle, Leeds and Crystal Palace, but he plays for FC Midtjylland, who's owned by Brentford's owner. So basically he will not be going to Leeds, Newcastle or Crystal Palace. He'll be going to Brentford, or he'll be staying at FC Midtjylland, is my opinion.
Basically, if you want to play it from there, it's just yours, is it? Do you pay for it? Is this dodgy?
Yeah, no. So we bought Frank Onyeka from FC Midtjylland earlier in the season. We paid £8 million for him. But basically, the director of football at Brentford is also the director of football at FC Midtjylland, Rasmus Ankersen. And he did a podcast with the Brentford podcast just before they signed Onyeka, and basically just said that the director of football at FC Midtjylland's a bit of a light touch, so we'll basically take who we want. And basically said that the setup will now be when Brentford was in the Championship and FC Midtjylland were obviously playing in the Danish Super League, they were sort of on a level par. But now Brentford's obviously moved into the Prem. He pretty much said that Midtjylland will basically be a feeder club for Brentford. So it looks potentially like there's two signings coming from them. Kajus went to the Euros with Sweden. To be fair, he only played 6 minutes against Spain, but he again looks like a great quality signing, plays in the middle of the park. And the final one, and I think the one that we need is Vangerman, who plays for Hamburg.
Great name. He's like a superhero.
He's a classic
man. That's a classic man child picking it. He's gonna have him.
But he's a classic Brentford signing because he's coming from Hamburg, who's playing in the second division in the Bundesliga, but he's a right back. We got rid of our last right back, and we're currently playing sort of coming through the youth team, a couple of youth team players and a right back at the moment. So he's potentially needed.
So
what's that?
I've been reading some reports on the friendlies as they've been going on. So the first one I read it, played back through. The second one I read it, played a back four. Third one, I read it, played a back three. Fuck's going on, mate?
It'll be a back four. I'm pretty confident.
Sure?
I'm pretty confident. So looking at sort of the lineups of when they've gone in, what it seems to be is there's players that they've rested. So we've not had Christian Norgard because he went to the Euros with Denmark, and Thijs Jensen, who went to the Euros with Denmark. And they're both sort of central midfield players who sort of are basically us. They are sort of like our spine, really. With Norgard, it's sort of centre defensive midfield and Jensen ahead of him. And I think because they were missing, I think Frank wanted to try and keep the three at the back as an option so we can swap in and out between games. With Visa coming in from Lorient on the left wing, you've got obviously Mbeumo on the right wing. I can't see how they, and with the amount of people now we've got in midfield, if Kajus comes in, then I don't understand how we wouldn't play a 4-3-3.
Yeah, get that. And it's going to kill, but those who probably wait to know, is Brian Mbeumo going to be OOP up front? From that, probably not.
No, but then the nice thing about having, and obviously again, biased Brentford fan, but having Mbeumo in the team is, yes, he'll play right wing most of the time. But if then, so for example, we go into a game where we turn to three at the back, obviously more than likely he'll be playing up top with Toney.
We've got a new Andy Martin here, I think, Suj. Who are the three Brentford players in your squad?
Who are the three? Who are mine at the moment? So Toney and Mbeumo. I did have David Raya.
Good lad.
I'm not sure if I can really keep a 4.5 mil keeper that's gonna be honest. He's going to concede a shitload of goals, isn't he? So
I love the fact that you've gone all in with there wasn't even a hesitation. No, I don't have three. Definitely going to be three. But Bueno, regardless of whether or not he's playing up top or not, he's such good value at 5.5. And I think for a lot of people, it has been. Well, it probably hasn't, to be fair, for a lot of people, but in the community, some have thought, look, Toney at 6.5, 30% of teams already. But Mbeumo does give you an alternative at 5.5 in midfield.
Yeah. Looking at the other 5.5s, I can't see anyone really that I would, maybe like obviously Emil Smith-Rowe, now he's been given the 10 shirt. I don't think he covers Toney, to be honest. I don't think he's going to get to the point where he's going to score just as many goals as Toney this year. But he's a good option if you don't fancy, if you want to, if you're already stuck and you've decided to go with, I don't know, 7.5 million strikers or Kane, and you just need a sort of a 4.5 mil forward and you can't afford Toney to get in your squad because he is a punt, let's be honest, because he's not played in the Premier League before, then Mbeumo could be that sort of cover. I don't think he's going to cover as much as, like, for example, last year when you had Son and Kane, they covered each other a little bit. I don't think he's going to be like that. And I don't think you'll see Mbeumo getting the amount of goals that Toney's going to get this year. But are we thinking about a Brentford double up? Is that really an option? Or
I am. The rest of me,
Toney,
I want to stay.
And the rest of the game is not either, because Mbueno's at 1.2% and Toney being at 30 point something percent, and that will only grow, I think, as we get closer towards kickoff as well.
What you're saying there, Tom, to be honest, you already killed it for me on the formation. I was thinking that if it's a case that I want to go 3-5-2, as in FPL, then it's possibly a case to be made if Mbeumo was going to play up front. Okay, can I get away with this? Because then he's almost my third forward as the 5.5 million rather than say Toney's 6.5. But I think what you said there, it's difficult to make the case to go for him rather than Toney if you want that Brentford coverage. I think it would more be a case that you're stuck there and you're going, I got 5.5 million for a full fifth midfielder. I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah,
and he's worth being put in the conversation, but I'm not convinced that he would be the best choice if he's going to be playing wide.
No, he's going to score goals this year and he's going to get assists. And I'm not sure whether you saw the goal he scored against Man United. It was
Weldy.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. Like, took it down, just absolutely. Brandon Williams, he's
Brandon Williams is only 4.0. It's not important.
No, exactly. But absolutely did him horribly. And then a beautiful finish. He does score goals like that, and he will score goals this season. It's just, is he going to be able to compete with the amount of goals that Toney's going to score this season? He's not on. Sorry, I
was going to say, take your Brentford hat off, put your Championship hat on. Todd Cantwell coming in at the same price with, and assuming he stays at Norwich, would you go Cantwell or Mbeumo at the same price?
I probably would go Mbeumo because I think Brentford overall. So last year, obviously, we scored more goals than, so I think I can't remember exactly, but it was Pukki and Buendia scored the majority of the goals, and Cantwell didn't really get that involved attackingly from sort of scoring goals, assists as much. And Mbeumo scored quite a lot of goals and got quite a lot of assists. So I think from an attacking returns point of view, I think Mbeumo will score more goals. And I think we've seen that, Brentford are a team, they're going to be a little bit like Leeds last year, where they're going to go all out attack, and it's either going to be Brentford finishing 20th this year or Brentford finishing sort of 13th, 12th. We're going to just have that is going to be that season. We're going to either go out and you're going to get battered 4-0, or we're going to go out and it's going to be a 5-3 in a ridiculous game where Brentford do score goals. They just do concede quite a lot of them as well.
I think, to be honest, if you're doing that and you were going to 5.5, Rashika at Norwich would maybe actually be more interesting, a bit more punty. We're not sure what's going to happen with him as such as a wide player for Norwich. I think if it's Cantwell or Mbeumo, I'd go Mbeumo. But I think I'd go Dallas over the two of them.
The only reason I didn't put...
If I didn't have 3 Leeds players already.
Yeah, I was going to say, the only problem with Dallas is it blocks you off with triple Leeds when you've got one of the defenders.
And in fairness, it does
Harrison
look like, at the time of recording, it does look like Dallas will probably end up starting game week 1 at fullback. As it stands, is a strong possibility. But yeah, I mean, of the 5.5s, Dallas, Smith Rowe. I think I'd go Smith Rowe over Mbeumo, I think, in all honesty.
Yeah. Oh yeah. To be honest, I think I agree. He's more than likely going to be starting for Arsenal first game, and it's going to be first game against Brentford. So actually, no, what I'm on about, it's an easy 3 points for Brentford. Yeah, I go in Mbeumo from Smith Rowe there. Sorry, what I'm on about. So Smith Rowe does make more sense really on a 5.5. But if Brentford do get a nice little run of games and they are playing well, then he's a good punt in there. I think there's an interesting one in there, which so we're talking about really cheap players. The one that's interesting for me, which I don't think anyone's spoken about, is Matthias Jensen. So he's on FPL at 5 mil. He takes all of the corners pretty much. He takes corners one side and Mbeumo takes corners the other side. If Toney's off the pitch, I'd assume with Josh Silva being out that Jensen will more than likely take pens as well. So at 5 mil, he's not like he's an unbelievable one, but he got quite a lot of assists last year and he takes a lot of direct free kicks and corners.
Is he likely to be impacted potentially on the starting spot with these new signings though?
No, he'll be starting.
Okay.
Danish international. Obviously, he replaced Eriksen in the first game when Eriksen obviously came off in the Euros. And then, he played sort of a bit part, mainly came on as a sub. But he takes direct free kicks, corners, and they've placed him at 5 mil for some reason on FPL. So, he's not, again, it's not going to be like he's scoring loads of goals, and he does get the odd assist there or there, but he's only 5 mil. So if you got half a mil to go up from a 4.5, then he might be an interesting one. But
it's easier to take that punt in there at 5 than the 5.5. That's what you're left with, I think. Talk to us, Tom, about likely lineup as it stands.
Yeah,
with what you've got, because a lot of the listeners are not going to know many of these players. So just run through. We know Raya's going to be in goal.
Raya's in goal.
Just run us through back 4 and then in front, and then kind of while you're doing it, who's in danger of perhaps missing out due to these new signings?
Yeah, sure. So it's going to more than likely be obviously Raya in goal. There's going to be Roslev playing right back. I'm going to go with Azure and Ethan Pinnock, and left back is Rico Henry. Then in the middle, you've got Christian Norgard, centre defence midfielder, Jensen and Onyeka, who'll be playing centre mid. And then you've got Mbeumo, Toney, and then Canos. And if Vise comes in, probably Vise.
So Canos, you said under threat. Someone's going to be in threat in that midfield 3 as well. Surely it won't be Onyeka as a new signing.
No, so Onyeka's coming new signing. It's a weird one, really. So I think Norgard,
it's fucking Jensen, isn't it?
I think Norgard and Jensen keep their places. I think the signings that come in will mainly be squad signings and won't actually take places. The one that I would be interested with, it would be Kajus if he comes in, but Kajus is more of a centre defensive midfielder. So I think he'd be sharing minutes with Norgard, and then Janelt's also a centre defensive midfielder who played a lot last year, who's basically played because Norgard got injured, and he'll be mixing up with Jensen, I think. So there's a more defensive one, might play 2 centre defensive midfielders, and in attacking game, more 2 attacking midfielders.
I take it, if I had to pin you to buy one of those defenders,
Yeah,
it would be Henry.
Yeah, definitely. There's a really interesting one, and Rico Henry, 100%. Really good on the left. Was wanted by a lot of Premier League clubs before we went up this year. I think West Ham was actually one of them that was interested in taking him off us. So thank God we went up. He doesn't have a massive attacking threat, to be honest. He gets up the pitch a lot and he puts a lot of balls in, but it's never really seemed to, last season I think it was 1 goal, 2 assists. It's not massive. The one I'm really interested on is a guy called Finn Stevens. He plays right back. He's 19 years old. He's a Welsh international. He's currently not registered on FPL. So hopefully it means if he comes in a nice 4.0.
That means defender. He comes in at 4.5. They listen to this. Yeah. They listen to
but yeah, so Roslev plays on the right at the moment, but he came in last season and he's okay, but I don't know if he's good enough. And there's this youngster that come in from the Brentford B team called Finn Stevens, and he put the assist in for Mbeumo's goal at United, and he just looks brilliant. And I think potentially he might be given a few chances this year because he's young and we got nothing else to lose, have we? So he's an interesting one. At the moment, obviously not even registered on FPL, but one to keep an eye out for. If he does come in really cheap, then could be interesting.
Who's Charlie Good?
So he was at Northampton Town. He got injured. He joined us last season, got injured pretty much for the entire season. Just came back. Again, I don't think he gets into the side. He'll definitely be behind Pinnock, Azure and Pontus Jansson. But he is a good player and he'll definitely have his moments and definitely have a few games, but I don't think he's going to be anyone in there.
Okay, that answers the 4.0 Brentford defender debate. It's a shame that your 2 4.5 million midfielders, I take it Zambarek and Bidstrup, not likely to get a look in either, are they?
Not really. Again, they're youngsters that have come up through the B team, so I can't see it happening.
The B team. That's another podcast to come in the future, Planet FPL listeners. Henry did really well for me in Gaffer last year, in Gaffer Fantasy. So it was a player I kept a close eye on. If people ain't getting on the end of his deliveries, mate, that's got to be down to the shit forward you've got a little bit, hasn't it?
Yeah. Well, he scored quite a lot of headers last year, old Ivan Toney. So
I
don't think it's too much on him. But no, I don't know what it is. He does get really attackingly far forward. He does love going down that wing. I just don't know. It just never seems to work. I don't really know why. Looking at his stats and everything, you don't look at his stats and go, he's really massively underperforming them either. It's not like he's getting in, loads of key passes and loads of them like crossed into the box. It's nothing. I just don't really see it. It seems to be like he runs down the wing, he then passes it to a winger who then puts the cross in. It just seems to be like he makes the space. It doesn't seem to be he's actually producing that end ball. Hopefully I'll eat my words and he'll start smashing in goals left, right and centre. But yeah, for me, I would avoid it and I wouldn't go with him. And that's as a really biased Brentford fan who absolutely loves him. So yeah, I wouldn't go there. There is
should we talk about the big man?
Yeah.
I know if you got something else you want to say first, go for it, please.
There's one more. So there's one that he's not a new signing, and he's just looked fantastic in pre-season friendlies. And to be honest, I thought before the season started, he really was sort of one of those players that sort of we bought him, and I sort of like, why have we bought this guy? And his name's Shandon Baptiste. We bought him when we bought Tariq Fosu, and he scored an absolute worldie against United. He hit the post against West Ham, and every time he's playing, he was injured quite a lot for the end of last season. Didn't really get a look in before he got that, and then all of a sudden, just these friendlies that he's been playing, just all of a sudden, just looks like he really wants it and really wants that place. I think he's 5 mil, or if not even in on the game at the moment. So it's just an interesting one there. Again, just someone to look for. But
is it Yano?
Baptiste.
No, Baptiste.
He's not listed, mate.
Not listed.
Pretty sure he's not listed at the moment. Yeah.
So that's an interesting one.
I can't fucking put him in then, can I?
No, not at the moment. Not at the moment. But if he does, if he gets put, if he does get a game, if he does get in, there's potential that he could go off. He just really wants it.
At least 20 players or so who haven't got a price yet who should have one.
Oh yeah, it seems like FPL got a real vendetta against Brentford this year. Like I've looked through their team, it's like, well, he's missing. It's they just aren't big fans of us.
For the FPL heads, is there anyone listening other than potentially Baptiste that is of interest to them that should be listed?
No, not really. Finn Stevens again, right back, but again, he's not a starter. But no, really that and Baptiste. Other than that, your main ones there, they're already all listed really. So no, nothing too exciting, unfortunately.
All right, question.
Yeah.
How many goals do you think Toney will score this season?
So there was an article on The Athletic the other day, and he said that he sets himself challenges of what he wants to score. And he said that, so Ollie Watkins, got 12 goals last season? 14. How many goals did Ollie Watkins get last season?
14 goals.
14.
I think it was at the higher end towards the end. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And so what he said is he doesn't want to say how many goals he's going to score, but he wants to beat 14 quite comfortably, is what he said.
Is that because of Watkins?
Yeah, he said that basically he wants to do better than what Watkins did when he joined the Prem. Basically, without saying it, what he said is he wants 20 goals this season. Now he's not going to get 20 goals this season, but I think
all the listeners are in my ear going, "Yeah, by the way, James, that prick's ending up on the wing now, so don't worry about that." Anyway,
Ollie Watkins did pick up 9 assists as well, to 23 attacking returns in total.
Yeah.
If Toney picks me up 14 or 15 goals at 6.5 million, I'm going to say that all day long.
I think he will. We scored a lot of goals last season, and the way we play and the way it sort of, I think it will work in the Prem. I don't think it's one of those, last season obviously went on a cup run with pretty much a second team, getting knocked out right at the end by Spurs, unfortunately, before we could make it to the final. But on the way there, we played 5 Premier League sides and we beat all of them. So, I think a lot of people are saying, "Oh, Brentford are going to finish bottom, Brentford are going to do this and that." And we've actually got quite a good squad. And Toney's a big part of that. And I do think that with penalties, with the joys of VAR this year, I know that obviously with some of the softer penalties we're not going to get, but I think he will score pretty well this season. Yeah, I can't see him going back from where he was.
What would it take for him not to be in your FPL team at the start? Other than an injury.
Oh, right. Yeah, not a lot then. Yeah. I'm about to say, if he lost the leg, I'd still probably think about putting him in. So, no, to be honest, for me, there's no one at 6.5. I don't think there's anyone that's even equivalent to the potential that he has, really. Obviously, you can look at Pookie at 6, but obviously Norwich's run at the start's ridiculously is just horrible.
Have you never seen Christian Benteke play?
Finished the season well.
He did finish, to be fair, he did finish season well. But
I'll take Toney over Benteke.
Sure. Same as that.
Definitely.
He 100% is Brentford's talisman, and he is gonna score goals. I know, there's going to be games I think where we play against, like, for example, obviously first game we got Arsenal, and I don't think the way we play, we're not going to set up really defensively trying to get a 0-0 draw. We're going to go out and try and win it, and if we don't win it, then move on to the next one. And if we do manage to sneak a couple of points, there'll be goals involved. And looking after last year's, he got 50% of our goals last year, so he's going to be there or thereabouts.
Come back to Toney in a sec. Are people going to enjoy watching you?
I hope so. I hope so. Yeah, we had a couple of seasons. I think the last 2 seasons where we really, I sat there and actually enjoyed watching us. If you go back a few seasons before that, it was a bit of a painful watch. It was just like there'd be games where we struggle and it goes off a bit. But the way Frank set us up now, and I think the way we play football, it's just people are going to enjoy watching us, whether we win 3-2 or lose 4-0. It's going to be entertaining. So from a neutral point of view, it should be pretty good. Whether from a Brentford point of view it's going to be any fun, I don't know. But
well, I part asked because it was just something you said made me think of Blackpool, and I've heard a few other people mention the Blackpool team from 10-11 years ago.
Yeah.
From what I've seen of you, I don't see that in you. That Blackpool team was fucking kamikaze at times, both offensively and defensively. I don't feel like you're that. I feel like there is more structure in your game.
Yeah, it's not quite all out attack, if that makes sense. It's a little bit more conservative. We pass out from the back, we play out from the back. It's sort of controlled football. It's not get up and send up 7 players up front so we can sort of try and score a goal. It is very controlled and very slow build-up play, I guess. But it's still entertaining to watch. They still make those final balls and they still go for it at the end of it. But yeah, it's a lot more controlled than I think the Blackpool team of just absolutely go for it and go a bit mental.
And then thinks in his head and remembering that you allowed a centre forward to have a one-on-one chance of you in 10 minutes into a playoff semi-final second leg from 70 yards out. from defending a corner. Danjuma, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, let's not talk about that. We won the game, so it's fine.
He won, yeah. He just made it
matter. He made it more entertaining for the neutral.
But that's kamikaze. You do that shit in this league, mate, you'll get punished for sure.
Well, it's an interesting one. So that was Pontus Jansson, who is the club captain. But to be honest, I think he might be the one that gets replaced at centre back. I think Azure comes in and he's the one that gets rotated more so, because I think Ethan Pinnock's a better defender. That's what I'd like to see anyway. With Azure coming in with Pontus Jansson and Ethan Pinnock, we literally have the 3 slowest defenders in the entire. They make Nat Phillips look quick. So I'm a little bit worried about that. So I think it's going to be a little bit less centre backs getting up a bit forward.
Do you like to play a high line?
I don't think so. No, I don't think it's that high.
Doesn't sound like you can, mate.
No, I don't. Yeah, but I say I hope not. No, I don't think it's that high really. Henry's quick enough to get back himself, to be fair, which isn't too bad. Roslow's got some legs on him as well, so we got a bit of cover there. Rico Henry, to be fair, will cover the running in treacle of the centre backs. Hopefully.
The reason Toney's obviously so popular is even if no one's ever watched you, it's obvious from looking at the data and some clips on YouTube what he did last year. Absolutely brilliant. 7 million forwards don't appeal. I'd argue Chris Wood could if he's back for Burnley in time, which actually the closer it gets to, we think he probably will be. The only other 6.5 that would be of interest to me is Abraham if he was playing for a different football club. Yeah. Like if Abraham rocked up at your place, it would actually interest me. If you said, "Oh, we're going to play 4-4-2 now," it would interest me. And below that, nothing really interests me other than bench, to be honest, by the looks of it. And that's why he's in so many teams. You think he's underpriced?
I think he's fairly priced. I don't think, because I'm not sure if have we seen any promoted strikers come up that have been priced at 6.5 before. I think he's been priced, usually it's 6 mil, isn't it? Maximum.
Tends to be. I'm pretty sure Pookie was 6 mil when he came up.
He had a massive rise very early because he started the season.
Well, of course, he did a hat-trick in game week 2 and he scored in Anfield in game week 1, then he scored against Chelsea in game week 3. So yeah, that was obvious. But when he came up, there was obviously that on paper they had Liverpool and Chelsea in the first 3, didn't look great. And people thought the 6, if I remember correctly, was too much. The majority of people did. I'm pretty sure he went from like 2% owned to about 30% owned in about 3 or 4 game weeks, didn't he, Suj?
Yeah.
Everybody
I remember just being frustrated on getting on him late because it wasn't until after we did the live show, which was probably 3 or 4 weeks into the season that year, that I decided to finally, all right, I have to go with everybody who's getting on Pookie because I'm missing out on the points. Didn't end particularly.
I know he started at 6.5.
He was 6.5, was it? So then, I think fairly priced. I think if he was put at 7, that'd be harsh. He's never played that's a lie. He's played 2 games for Newcastle in the Prem. But other than that, he's not played in the Premier League before. He is an unproven striker in the Premier League, but he does have 43 goal contributions from last year. So I think 6.5 is fair. I think if he was anything less than 6.5, he'd be ridiculously cheap, and he would be in 100% of FPL teams rather than what he's at the moment. Is just under 40 at the moment, I think, isn't it? 30 something.
Massive either way.
30.5 at the moment.
Okay, that's come down a bit.
I think, and it probably has been decreasing, but that's part because of other things going on like Ings and whatnot.
Yeah.
I think if he was 7, he'd still be quite well owned. Like I don't think you'd be knocking much off the ownership actually if he was 7 million. I don't think.
I don't know. There's not that many Brentford fans, so having 7 mil.
There's a lot of FPL fans though who see the nice shiny new guy who scored a shitload of goals last year and want to be clever and get him in. I haven't decided yet personally. I think before what's been happening in kind of what we've heard in a lot more recent Correspondent Week podcast, I was probably going no, but actually it might flip back round where I'm interested because your start's pretty good as well.
Yeah,
actually. Yeah, Arsenal, Palace, Villa, Brighton, Wolves is a reasonable first 5 as a collective.
Yeah, I think the nice thing about Toney, and it's going to sound a bit stupid, but I think it doesn't really matter too much who he's going to play, unless you're playing sort of like Man City, Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea. Yeah, the ones where the defense is just ridiculously good.
Solid, yeah.
I think it's not too. I don't think it matters too much where Toney is in that team. Like he'll be in my team pretty much for the entire season. unless he all of a sudden after the 5 game weeks is looking like he doesn't want to be there and he's an absolute flop. But I can't see that happening. I think he can score against the majority of the teams.
If you get to game week 6 when you play Liverpool and he's scored twice, which I think 2 in 5 at this level would be pretty reasonable to start with, he's getting binned by the majority of people with Liverpool, West Ham away, Chelsea, Leicester as a group of 4. He'll get binned. One of the dangers, of course, with going with him, we've kind of highlighted it. There isn't anything nearby unless Abraham goes somewhere that's particularly of interest to anybody. So moving off him could be quite tricky as well. That's the one downside of starting with him.
Yeah, well, I think the nice thing is I think you've got if you go with Toney and he is an absolute flop, then there is the jump to Pukki at 6 mil, isn't there? I think he comes because I think their fixtures they get turns a little bit better at 4 or 5.
Yeah, game week 5, they have a really good run actually, probably for a good 10 game weeks. It's not bad, bar one fixture away to Chelsea.
So I've seen that's a couple of outs if you wanted to do that. If you did go on him and he was having an absolute nightmare. If Brentford were having an absolute nightmare, then that is the jump off of him. That's the only one I've seen really.
I've got so much money tied up in Salah, Robertson, Trent, and Son. I've got to go with Toney because I ain't got much money to go anywhere more expensive, and I think I need someone at that price.
You haven't got to. Really. You can go with the point is you can go with a 4.5. Right. Yeah, but you can go with a 4. You can do the comparison. How do we feel if we start comparing Toney with Buendia or Toney with Rafinha? Because you can go with a 4.5 million forward and go with the extra midfielder instead, right? That's probably the comparison that people perhaps can't see at the moment. How do we feel then when we start comparing Toney to Rafinha? And of course, you can have both. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I think you are. That is not a question I was prepared for. No, I don't know.
You don't like what you want to say. I don't.
No, I don't think so. No, I think if you were going one or the other, then for me, I'd go with Rafinha purely because he's had the season in the Premier League. And I think when we said originally in the first podcast, I was actually a little bit worried that Toney won't be able to replicate what he's done in the Championship in the Premier League. And so yes, it is a risk. And so if you were going head straight up battles between Rafinha and Toney, I'd go Rafinha. If I was going for the battle between Buendia and Toney, then it'd be Toney all day long for me on that one because Buendia does look fantastic. He does look like he's going to be absolutely class, but he's not done it in the Premier League really. What he had the season with Norwich when they went down, and obviously he's had another year now, but whether he can actually do it in the Premier isn't proven yet.
If Toney's still talisman as well, then you can see him picking up BPS consistently. Like if he's the one that's scoring the goals and winning you games, even if they're tight, then I think Toney for BPS might be an interesting one. So I'll be interested to see how much of a talisman he actually is once you get into your games.
Yeah, I guess the thing to think about against him versus Rafinha as well is if Brentford are getting penalties, then Toney's taking penalties. Bamford takes penalties for Leeds, and Rafinha doesn't. Obviously, he's on direct free kicks, but to be honest, I've seen Toney take a few direct free kicks himself, so it's a tough one. I think come end of the season, they're going to be. I think you can end up seeing if Leeds perform as well as they did last year. Obviously, Leeds are going to be Rafinha should be miles ahead of Toney on points wise, but again, you can't put Rafinha as a forward on FPL. You can only put him as midfielder. So it depends how many places you got to fill up in the forward places and how many places you got to fill up in the midfield places.
What's Toney's penalty record like?
14 from 14 last year.
I was going to say, he doesn't look like a player who's going to miss.
It is the most ridiculous run-up I've ever seen for a penalty. I think Pogba's run-up it's probably worse, actually.
He looks like he's going to the bar to like, he's seen a nice girl at the bar and he's going to walk to the bar and put his arm on the bar and start talking to her. That's how he goes up for a penalty.
It's like when you used to play football in the park with your mates and you play the little 5-side goals and you said, only one step pens. That's literally what he does. He does one step and he just puts it top corner every single time. And the keepers just never seem to. I don't understand it. I watch it every time. I'm just like, it's a bit hypnotic. He seems like watch until the keeper makes the first move and then just places it. It's like I would a bit Jorginho-esque, I guess. Like watches for the keeper first and then decides to take the shot. It's a really odd.
There's nothing in the technique that's like Jorginho's, but
different from
in terms watching the keeper. Waiting for the keeper.
Yeah, it's really strange, but his penalty record is absolutely immaculate. And he just, I think he had a little bit of a dry spell just towards the end of the season, where he sort of didn't have a goal from open play for sort of, I think it was about 5 or 6 games going into the playoffs. Obviously didn't score in the playoffs, but didn't score a goal from open play in the playoffs. But then penalty, steps up, just looks so confident, even though he had 4 or 5 games where he hadn't scored a goal. Still happily just takes it, and same run up, same thing, absolutely smashes it. So yeah, from penalties point of view, if he gets a few of those, not that I don't think we're going to get a load of penalties this year. Hopefully we'll. We have to get in the box first.
That's something that can be any game, right?
Yeah, exactly. But
it does sound like, and we've not particularly spoken about this much on the podcast, but legislation suggests there will be far less penalties this season.
Yeah. But if there is one, and he's taking up to take
He'll probably score.
I would only say, of all the people in the Premier League that would take a penalty, if I had to put my life on it, I think I'd only probably give it to Bruno over him.
Endorsement enough for me.
Yeah, I haven't watched anyone else take a penalty where I've been that confident and gone, fair enough.
All right, well, Harry Kane does get a mention on the podcast at the end.
I'd rather have Harry Maguire take his, actually. That was a absolute rocket.
Best penalty anyone's ever seen, mate.
We've been ending these shows by asking the correspondents where we think the teams are going to finish, but you've already told us 12th or 13th or 20th. One of those kind of numbers.
Well, I've put a £5 bet on 1,000 to 1, so we are going to win the league. But yeah, I think that's a bit more of the optimism. Now, I think it's going to be, if I was being honest with where I think we're going to finish, it's going to be a bit of a battle, as I think we expect. If I was being really optimistic, I think we're going to finish 14th. I think we'll still clear of relegation. I think we'll do it in a good manner.
I think for summary for me in terms of relegation fight and what we've learned speaking to everyone this year, my opinion hasn't changed too much. It's going to be extremely tough for all 3 teams that have come up. Yeah. I'll steal FPL Iron's comment when he went on the FPL Wire saying that Watford were probably the best equipped to stay up, which was my opinion too. But actually, if one of the 3 was to do particularly well and push towards mid-table, it probably is Brentford because of the capability of the team and the style that it will play in. But in terms of the scrap, I think the only one that of the other 17 clubs that I'm more concerned for now than I was before we started, it has to be Southampton.
Yeah, losing Danny is a big one. So,
but just speaking to Matt as well, there's things there that are not right at Southampton at the moment. If they click going forward, they're a team I never want to play, particularly Southampton. Give you a proper game offensively, give you trouble. So I think they're capable of winning games that you don't expect. Palace have got a rough start, but if they do okay with it, then I think once the signings have bedded in and stuff, they'll be okay. Brighton, we think, will be all right. Burnley, I'd be a little bit conscious of if James Tarkowski does leave and they don't replace. But otherwise, rinse, repeat for Burnley. I think Newcastle will be all right, personally. It's not going to be easy, mate.
It's going to be an interesting season anyway. We'll put it that way. Could be fun.
Make sure you enjoy it.
You know that you'll win a couple of games that you don't expect to, and those are the ones that you take away as memories.
Even if you do say establish yourself for 10 years or whatever and become a permanent fixture, this is still the first one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Enjoy it.
I'm looking forward to it, and can't wait to spank Arsenal in the first game of the season. So
I was going to say, all eyes are going to be on you straight away on Friday night.
You know what the prize is for winning, didn't you?
No, go on.
Top of the league, mate.
Yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it? I can screenshot that. That's Twitter banner sorted, isn't it, for the next 12 months? So
you'll also put them bastards bottom as well.
Oh, that does sound good.
Nice. Tom, thank you so much. Mate. Thank you so much for joining us. As we mentioned earlier, to all the listeners, FPL Dummy Tom on Twitter as well, to follow Tom and obviously all of his tweets on FPL, Brentford and the like. James, 20 out of 20.
Well done, mate. Absolute pleasure. All rocking really to speak to the guys. Absolutely brilliant.
I hope the listeners have got value out of all of the conversations as well. We're back next week. Well, next week being tomorrow, because it's out on a Sunday, with a regular schedule of content because the season starts in 4 or 5 days now.
Season 5 kicks off big week. We've got a couple of people we want to introduce you to. Callum Mates, one of our advanced tier patrons, going to be joining us on a podcast on Tuesday. I think he finished about 300th overall last year. So, I mean, he knows his onions. He knows what he's doing. We'll find out how he did it, who he's thinking of having in mind for the start of the season, because you should listen to players like him rather than me and Suj. FPL Canal's going to come on during the week with us, do some stat stuff with us. We're going to reveal our drafts on Friday. Season 5 will kick off on Monday. I'll do a little bit on strategy because I know you need that shit in pre-season, and bringing back Sky Fantasy Football Podcast on Wednesday, August the 11th.
Indeed. So we're leaving now because we need to go and find out if Lionel Messi is going to be rocking up in a sky blue shirt this season. Listeners, stay subscribed wherever you listen to the podcast, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, whatever it may be. But other than that, hope you enjoyed this series. Stay safe. Ciao for now.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you to all the correspondents. Be nice to each other, everyone. Cue music, please, man child.